My name is John Brown.
And how long have you been in Shamokin?
I moved here in 1992. I grew up in Mount Carmel, graduated '88 in Mount Carmel High School. Came here for work. Believe it or not, you hardly ever hear anybody say I moved to Shamokin for work. Working at the factory, that's where I met my wife. Got out of the police academy and started work as a patrolman in Shamokin. 1992, town was still somewhat hopping. Independence Street on a Friday and Saturday night had 1,000 kids down there, standing on the sidewalks, traffic backed up for half hour, 45 minutes to go from one end of Independence Street to the other, just to turn around and come back again. That lasted all the way, mostly through the 90s when Nichols was chief. He put forth a giant effort to squash it. Glenn Kennard ran Rock the Block parties. There were Ferris wheels, there were rides. God bless the man for doing it. And all the way up to this, still doing just the fireworks for us. God bless him, because it made Shamokin something. People came from everywhere because we have the venue for it. A raised platform above a city. And it reached a pinnacle there when he was doing the Rock the Block stuff and everything else. And unfortunately, there were some incidents there that did it have to go away? No. But yeah, it went away. And then the decline of the fireworks. You know, there were years we got to a point we weren't going to have them anymore. Garth Hall paid for them one year, because they stopped collecting along the highways, and it was political / it's technically illegal, so nobody wanted to get sued, so they stopped all of that. Garth Hall challenged, hey, I'm not going to pay for it every year. It's time for the community to get together and figure out a way to support this. And that's where CBC started. In the break room of the police department was the first meeting with Angie Arnold and Pappy Jelinski and Craig Rhodes and myself. Approached city council and said, hey, let us collect along highways. It'll pay for the fireworks again, like it used to supplement it. And city council at the time, yeah, we'll give it a shot. Cole Township, absolutely not. So we had to watch where you put the buckets out. You had to be on the city side of the line, which made it a little bit more difficult at times. Now that was early on, since Bernie Rumberger and the guys that are there now actually want the collections like Jack Williams. If you put it in the city, you're at the narrow part of the street. It's dangerous to put a kid there collecting, or anybody collecting. So they have allowed us to put it to Jack Williams further. My wife put me in an Uncle Sam costume and stood up there on the highway, jumping around and walking back and forth, and having my picture taken, pointing, saying, we want you to donate to the fireworks. My wife dresses every year. We try and do something. It makes people stop. Some of the poorest people, I know them from being here and being part of all of this, give you the most. They'll root through their wallet. There is a great base here of people that just care. I hit my 20th year as a policeman, which gives you a retirement in a third-class city. I went from being a policeman to a janitor. At the time, politics in Shamokin were struggling. So I decided I'm going to give it a shot. Mayor's coming up, and the majority of the people thought that was a good idea. And thus started my term as mayor. My free time was taking my car and driving around, finding abandoned vehicles, finding dilapidated properties, any little things that I could find. One day, Bunker Hill, section of town, I'm riding around, my wife says to me, hey, go around the block. I want to show you that. All right. Thought I missed something. It was on her side. I did miss something. A nice house. A good house. Let's go to a flower shop and buy a truckload of flowers. Drive around, put a flower on the porches of the people that care. She had a different mindset. She saw beauty where I was trying to find problems. That was the start of it all. I tell that story continuously, that if she wouldn't have been with me, probably would have spent 4 years finding problems and talking about the problems that were here. New businesses was open. We're showing up at that new business. We're going to sit there with the owner, tell him how much we appreciate you thinking that Shamokin's worth investing in. We took him a couple of soupies, a bottle of wine. For whatever reason, Shamokin, the business folks, aren't involved with the political side of running the city. You know, Cole Township, it's all businessmen out there that run the township. Well, God bless Kurt Mosser for Kurt being a friend. I said, what do we do? He said, I have an idea for you. People come when you buy food. He OIP back room, first time ever. Let's invite any business that wants to come there and sit and talk to the City of Shamokin Council, Kurt Mosser. Tell us what you need. So we scheduled a second meeting with Sabre, and they weren't even Sabre at the time. They were just our businesses. And they also took a great interest in the City of Shamokin. They brought a man by the name of Dave Porzy to the second meeting. We all sat and talked, and they hatched this idea of there's thousands of people within a couple of miles of Shamokin that can't get to Shamokin to spend their money. They desperately want to spend their money, but they can't. There's nothing that holds them here. There's no way for them to enjoy the things that we have. I'll still say 100%. They don't belong on all streets. They don't belong in a residential area. Your commercial areas, and again, Shamokin, luckily, Shamokin has a wooded path from the AOAA all the way to the business district of the city of Shamokin. If it wasn't for that sitting there, we probably still wouldn't have been able to ever pull this off. We started off with okay, we'll try it. I met with Dave at least once a week for years throughout this process, and came up with, let's bring them in, not through what the current portal is now, but we brought them in through our Raspberry Hill housing projects at the very south end of town that actually touches the Anthracite Outdoor Adventure Area property. And these people came out of the mountains by the hundreds. It was terrible. It was overwhelming, the amount that came in. And that happened. I think originally Dave was planning on, well, let's get this together and maybe a year and a half we can do something. And while we were sitting there drinking beer, I said, how about if we do it next month? And that's how quick that first ride came up. Like, what do you mean next month? Well, let's give it a shot. Big guy. You say this is going to work. You say yes, telling us it's going to be the greatest thing in the world. Let's try it. If it works, and we'll try it again. If not, and it did. We didn't have a single problem. The people couldn't have been nicer. I personally took the first spot, not as the mayor of the city of Shamokin, just wearing an orange shirt that said AOAA volunteer. Those people coming in stopped. Hey, thank you for doing this. We appreciate you letting us do this today. Nobody tipped them off to who I was. They didn't know. They could have cared less. They drove down to the next person, stopped again, and said, hey, thanks, we appreciate your time. This is great. Nobody else lets you do this. Da, da, da. The parks are big. The communities are small. We're the first one to put them into a third-class city and put them on the streets, which was a big stretch. Kurt believed in it. He thought it was a good idea. He thought the park was a good idea. He was a county commissioner at the time when that happened. But it worked. I try and tell people when locals complain about four-wheelers on the streets now, my answer is they're here on vacation. They're not here to cause a problem. They want to come here with their family They want to spend some money that they saved up, and they want to have a good time. All of a sudden, there was a state grant that nobody knew about other than us, and money came here to pay for Betsy Kramer, and she's another one. There are so many players in this game that are so important to it. And I'll miss somebody in here and feel bad about it later. But there are just so many. If it wasn't for Betsy Kramer being here, Kathy would have killed me. I couldn't facilitate all of the things that she was making happen. You can't. We needed a full-time person to accommodate all of the things that these groups were starting to do. You know, the greatest thing to do as a mayor is to be able to say, go ahead and do it, and then take credit for it. Yep. These folks, I mean, they came from everywhere. The Andy Twiggers out of Allentown, and our Betsy Kramer, thank God we got her out of the CEDACOG. CEDACOG was great to come in and help us. They could have assigned any one of their 200 employees, 300 employees to the city of Shamokin. Somebody down there picked Betsy Kramer. Maybe they wanted to get her out of the office. I don't know. But they decided to move her to the city of Shamokin. 99 steps. There, from the time I started here as a policeman, in trouble. Early 90s, in trouble, starting to fall apart, no money to put into them. And everybody likes them. Why? I don't know, because they're there. It's one of those, it's because they're their things. We had the governor come here and recognize us. Like Kathy said, I had Miss America in this building. She came here, Shamokin, Pennsylvania. The Secretary of the Interior came here. When they first told me she was coming, I went, yeah, okay. You just need anything, let me know. Well, we're not going to need anything. We'll handle all that ourselves. I said, okay, even better for me. I didn't know who she was until we sat down and started planning it. She is number 7 in line to be the President of the United States. She's the 7th most powerful person in this country that went, hey, if we have some time, I'd like to go to Shamokin. Weird. And she came here because that park exists. She came here to see coal lands that were transformed into something usable, something profitable for a local community. My Lord, the things that can be accomplished by the pure heart of a volunteer. No political aspirations, no monetary gain for anybody, because of volunteers. Again, there are just so many folks in this little community that care. And that's the biggest thing. People care, things will happen.